You're listening to Staying Wild, the podcast where we ditch burnout and build outrageous success and lives the wild way. I'm Adelaide, the high-performance coach James Bond would secretly hire if pink was his vibe. I've helped over 500 high achievers land promotions, smash personal bests, pivot careers, achieve their full potential, and actually love their lives. Yes, I have. All in under a year. No fluff, just deep mindset work, potent energy, and breakthroughs worth popping champagne over. Now it's time to join me and Wolfie on the wild side with today's episode.
My studio is so fancy in the back of my car. My phone is my flashlight. I mean, can you get any better? To be honest, the sunset orange and pinks over the fjord at Henningsvær, pretty fucking cool. So if this is my podcast studio for now, I'm pretty happy. Welcome to Staying Wild, the podcast for high achievers who would like to, and high performers, women mostly, but also men, who are, or you already know this, you just listened to my intro. What the hell am I talking about? Which is, lucky I have the intro because I'm like, what is my podcast about apart from becoming your wild self? I'm going to stop babbling on. I do not know. I just can't stop talking. I think I've been on my own for too long. The talking to myself on my podcast is a bit too much. Let's get into this. First up, we have my masterclass, the mindset upgrade that is going to unlock your career breakthrough. I think you're going to love it. And then I have a conversation with Bex. I've actually known Bex for so many years. We went to primary school together. My God, so many years ago. That's crazy. And we've stayed in touch. When I started Ironmans, it was actually Bex who was helping me with advice and guidance around nutrition. I remember one of the tips Bex gave me was to quit caffeine a month or more before your Ironman. So then when you had the Red Bull, you'd save it for the end of the marathon or near the end of the marathon. It was like rocket fuel. And I remember I was so excited, hadn't touched caffeine for months or weeks. And then I hadn't had any caffeine that entire race. I was like, I cannot wait for this rocket fuel. And clearly the race had run out of Red Bull. But it was like watered. It was so watered down. I was like, this is just water. Where is my caffeine? Where is my rocket fuel? So that was quite funny. Bex is still loving running, lives in New Zealand with her partner and her dog, and just living such a beautiful life out there. And maybe even on the move. I have Bex on because I absolutely love what she is doing. She is disrupting the status quo and dismantling internal and external systems to expand human potential. What a fabulous introduction to this wonderful woman. I am not going to give away anything more, apart from we do some soul-searching conversations, diving into lots of different topics that I know you're going to relate to. I certainly related to. And you will have some aha moments that will give you, like, it's just these little things. You know, we don't need a massive change in our life to create massive change. And we really explore that with Bex today. So I cannot wait for you to have that conversation in your ears. I'm going to stop talking. Luckily, the masterclass and the podcast was filmed quite a while ago when I still could eloquently have a conversation with people. So enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Staying Wild Masterclass, the mindset upgrade that unlocks your career breakthrough. This one's for the high achieving woman who's quietly or not so quietly burning out. You've tried better habits, better boundaries, more to-do lists, but you're still stuck, still questioning, still wondering, is this my life? Is this it? Let's start with a truth bomb. You cannot better habit your way out of survival mode. You can't journal your way to your next breakthrough. My clients have tried. Most women come to me because they are stressed out, overthinking about work in their free time, impatient, negative self-talk, imposter syndrome, second-guessing, self-doubt, struggling with low self-esteem, struggling in a high-pressure environment to perform at their best and to show up there with joy, with inner peace. And they're struggling with their work-life balance. They want to enjoy life more, but they are burning out, not sure what to do next. Do they quit? Do they pivot careers? Do they go on sick leave? They feel like they're failing at absolutely everything, and they lack self-belief in their skills and capabilities, whether it's at work, as a mother, or maybe in their hobby as well. These women, they are all smart and highly capable, just like yourself. They thought maybe time passing would solve things, or maybe quitting their job. They've tried losing weight. I've had clients who've come being like, I've lost 10 kilos, but I'm still burned out. I'm still burning out. I don't understand why. I've done everything right. But these are all symptoms of limiting beliefs and identities. You've been operating from an outdated identity shaped by this good girl conditioning, by hustle culture, by proving, by pleasing, perfectionism, and it's quietly been sabotaging your success and your happiness. You say you want balance, but you identify as the woman who holds it all together while hustling hard and succeeding. You crave freedom, but you've built your self-worth around being the person who says yes to everything and does everything absolutely perfectly. You long for ease, for flow, but believe struggle and sacrifice is just part and parcel of the parcel. That's an interesting, do you know it, part and parcel? Part and parcel of the process? In England, that's a saying, right? It's part of the process. We'll just leave it at that. That inner conflict, that tug and war feeling, maybe you have two different voices on your shoulders, that is what is burning you out. This misalignment with who you want to be and where you are. Let me introduce you to two modes of thinking and therefore being. The first mode is survival. So survival thinking is you're operating on shoulds and external validation and expectation. I had a client some years ago now, actually. She ran her own company, very, very successful, trained triathlon like she was a pro athlete, and was a phenomenal mother and partner, like just crushed it in life. She got to that age and place financially where she could retire, but felt like she shouldn't. The way things had gone, the business had evolved to a point where she was like, actually, I think it needs to evolve to another level, but I'm not sure I want to go into that section. I could retire, but I feel retiring is, the word used wasn't weak, but it was a suboptimal option through this lens. It just wasn't viewed as a positive and joyful thing to experience. She was exploring different ways of still continuing the business, and I just point blank asked her, do you want to do this, or would you like to actually retire? If we forget about outsiders' perspectives, if we forget about what we should be doing and we just tune it into yourself, we listen to your soul, to what your heart is calling you to do, what's then the answer? Would you like to retire? Because you can. It's a choice that's life enhancing and it can be positive and it can be amazing. But you have to believe that it is your next level self's step. After some reflection, she came to the conclusion that actually retirement, that was so for her, because we shedded that external expectation, that external validation, and what other people might think of her if she does retire. We released it, we let it go, and she was able to stand in her power, her strength, her wild self, and go, actually, fuck this, I'm retiring. So in survival mode, we are really allowing the outside stuff to guide us. So be very careful when making big decisions, and even the small stuff, that you are having awareness around. What are you allowing to influence your decision making and your thinking and your way of showing up and being in this world? When we're in survival mode, we tend to react unhelpfully. We're over functioning. We are trying to keep the peace. We could have grown up in an environment where we're walking on eggshells, or we're in an environment where we have to walk on eggshells and we just want to keep the peace. We avoid conflict. We give away our power. We're like, here, take it, without really realizing it. One of my clients is a fabulous leader. She was giving away her power without realizing it by playing small, by shrinking herself, by not being too much, because the leader and the leaders were not necessarily receptive, or they were gaslighting, and they didn't create a environment where she felt she could speak up. But once we started to get her standing in her power and knowing her strength and who she was, that started to change. When we're in survival mode, we do shrink ourselves to make it more comfortable for the other people. So we go against our wild soul and heart. When we're in survival thinking, we believe success requires great sacrifice, that we have to give up time doing the things we enjoy and time with loved ones. We have to give up maybe even our well-being and our health. This is an interesting one. And the last one is we seek control to feel safe. And it can be control over one specific thing. That's where things like OCD can also come up, because we're just trying to have control over something in our environment because we feel unsafe. And that can be psychologically or physically. When we're in survival mode and survival thinking, burnout thrives. It is the perfect environment for it. It's kind of like that damp, moist environment where bacteria and fungus are like, hey, this is for us, and then grows exponentially. This is like burning out. When we're in survival mode, when we're in survival thinking, it's like, hey, you invited me to the party. I'm here. Let's go big. Even high achievers, smart, capable women, they get stuck here. And they can stay stuck here for far too long because it feels productive. We can get addicted to this stress feeling, to the survival mode feeling. I often hear people say, oh, I perform at my best when I'm really stressed. Interesting belief. Not necessarily true, or actually would we like a different reality? When we are busy, when we are running around, that's when we tend to get applause, when we get rewarded and complimented, and we feel really good because we're busy, buzzing around like a little bee. But it can cost you everything, or just a lot of things, or one really important thing. I would like us to switch from survival mode, from survival thinking, into wild mode and wild thinking. This is anchored in your inner truth, your inner knowing, your wild self, your wild heart. That's where we are connected. There is no outer noise. There is no outer validation. We're more like a blade of grass in the wind. We have really strong roots in the ground. We know who we are. We know our values. We are connected to our wild self. Maybe we're even connected to Mother Earth, Gaia, to Source, to Spirit, whoever you connect with, if you do connect with something bigger than yourself. And we're able to anchor in that while the chaos goes around us. Now, when we think of a blade of grass bending in the wind, it does to an extent, but it's always anchored in there. It is unwavering in who it is. This may be a metaphor of maybe has gone a bit too far. I hope it gets the point across. But the other way of thinking about it is we are the calm. We are in the eye of the storm. While there is all this noise around us, we are still calm and grounded. The second part of wild thinking and being in wild mode is making self-led decisions. So you really are in the driver's seat of your life. You are the captain of your ship. You get to make the decisions you want to make. When we're in this wild mode, often the decisions we make do go against the grain because we are standing up to society, to convention, and going, actually, this doesn't align for me and I'm going to do something else. And that can be scary, but the trick is to do it anyway. And that can be through baby steps. You don't have to suddenly upturn your entire life. The next is to have beliefs that align and support you in the life you want to live. So you believe success and joy and health and well-being, for example, belong together. You see rest, intuition, and desire as performance and life-enhancing tools. You have healthy boundaries And as I said, you stand in your power unwaveringly. This is where the real breakthroughs happen. This is where you live out your wildest dreams, or maybe even dreams that you've not even dreamt of yet. Often clients come to me and they go, holy shit, I can't believe we just achieved this. I didn't even know that was possible. It wasn't even in my dreams because I wasn't able to dream that. It's really cool. When you shift from survival thinking, survival mode into wild mode, wild thinking, everything changes. Your leadership, your confidence, your results, your joy, your capacity to love, to have fun, to be in your inner peace, to live by who you are and how you want to show up in the world. Because here is the sneaky thing. You don't act your way into change. You believe your way into it. We often hear, oh, that saying has completely gone from my mind. What is it? Just lie before you feel it? Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. It's such a common phrase. You'll totally know what I'm trying to say. This is when it'd be nice to have like an actual co-host, not one who is refusing to sit next to me. What do they say? It's like lie your way into it, feel it before you do. Fake it till you make it. Oh my God, we got there in the end. Jesus Christ, Adelaide. Fake it until you make it. We want to believe it and then we want to make it. Your identity, which is AKA the I am statements, runs your brain, which therefore creates your reality because they are directing your choices, your energy, your reactions, your thoughts, your feelings, absolutely everything cascades down. Identities, beliefs, feelings, thoughts, habits. If you've watched the first 2 masterclasses, you'll know this pyramid of change I am talking about. So when your career has plateaued or stagnated or you're exhausted, you're burning out, you're spinning your wheels, you're that frickin' hamster on that bloody wheel, day in, day out, in autopilot mode, wondering, is this it? The most powerful question you can ask yourself is, who am I being right now? Who do I want to become instead? You're not stuck because you lack strategy, intelligence, confidence, or capabilities or skills. You're stuck because you're still operating from an identity and belief, or identities and beliefs that belong to a past version of you. Change doesn't happen on a linear basis. So if you've been stuck for years, it doesn't take years for you to get unstuck. If you're a long-time listener, you will know that I was bedridden for years with severe chronic fatigue syndrome, and I was able to fully recover in just 3 days. Change does not happen linearly when it comes to the brain. It takes one decision, one belief shift, one wild thought, one bold move. Like, I don't have to earn rest. I am allowed to lead without apologizing. I am allowed to lead, and I am a powerful leader if I cry. I am no longer outsourcing my self-worth. I am a woman who thrives, not just survives. This is how you rise. You take that version of you who you want to become. And I've done this with every single client, is we map out who is it you want to become, and then we bring that version of you into your reality today. You don't have to wait to be the leader who gets that promotion. You don't have to wait to be that person who sells their business for 6 figures. You don't have to wait to be that version of you who loses weight. You don't wait to have to be the version of you who runs their first marathon. We look at, well, who is that version of you? And we bring that into you today, looking at their way of thinking, their way of believing, identities. And just a FYI, this is what we do inside my full 35-day self-study signature program, Rise of the Wild Woman. We upgrade your mindset at the identity and belief level, so you stop self-sabotaging and start showing up as the woman you actually are. The bold one, the powerful one, the wild one. So if this resonated, here's what I want you to know. You are not broken. You are not crazy. You are not too much. You are not lacking anything. You are not too needy. You're not too emotional. You don't need to try harder or work harder. You just need to start thinking like the next version of you, the woman your soul's been whispering to you about. Step into and embody her. As I said, if you would like support and guidance, then The Rise of the Wild Woman is for you. It's just 990 krona or £69 if you are living in England or elsewhere, around about that number depending on the exchange rate. And it is literally worth every damn krona. If you have any questions, please slide into my DMs or post them in the comments. And if you're like, this was freaking awesome, I'd like to learn more, then I do recommend listening to the masterclasses in episode 1 and then episode 2. And if you are burning out or heading to burnout, then you might want to download my free PDF, the Burnout Escape Protocol. But if you're like, Adelaide, I am ready to deep dive into this shit, then The Rise of the Wild Woman, that one's for you. Now on to my wonderfully special guest, who I know you're going to love, feel inspired by, energized by. Here she is. Hi, Bex. I am so excited to have you on the Staying Wild podcast. How are you today?
Hello, it's so lovely to see you, and thank you so much for having me. It is a very wet, cold winter's day here in Wellington, or winter's evening, but it is lovely to be with you.
We actually have the same weather, but you ran this amazing nationwide campaign in New Zealand, which is why I really wanted to get you on the podcast. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So I am originally from the UK, but I moved to New Zealand as a student in many years ago. I worked as a public servant for a few years, and then I decided, well, actually, the big catastrophe was my sister died, and it completely obliterated life as I knew it. And I just could not continue to live by the status quo. It was just impossible because my whole world had crumbled, and I just had no capacity for any of the gameplay and stuff, the social conditioning that we're expected to adhere to anymore. And I decided I'm going to take a leap of faith, and I'm going to go and do what I've always wanted to do, which is work with people. And I started training as a social worker. And during this time training as a social worker, I discovered that I was going to have to do 6 months of full-time unpaid work to prove my worth in a profession with chronic staff shortages that was never going to pay me well enough to recoup the debt from training. And I was really in my to hell with everything at this point. So I dropped out. I was like, I'm not doing this. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's exploitative. It doesn't align with even the profession's code of ethics. Like, we have to treat people with dignity and respect, but we're expected to rely on food banks because we can't afford to feed ourselves. Like, this is ridiculous. But I could not let this issue go. And as I started to do more research on it, I realized that unpaid training is really common in nursing, teaching, midwifery, mental health. But if you train as a police officer, a prison officer, or an apprentice, you are paid to train. So I recognized that there was this really gendered element to it, and the raging feminist in me came forth, and I decided I was going to run a campaign for paid training in female-dominated professions for the dignity of students, and also to address chronic workforce shortages, because that has a knock-on effect for the rest of the public. So I ran the campaign and got a lot of media attention, really rallied students and unions and MPs. The media loved it. Anything they could go at the government for, they were all for it. So I got loads of interest. I got to do TEDx. That was really cool. And it just was this incredibly intense period of time that was magnificent and utterly exhausting. So when I finished, I had to really go to ground and just really stop and reset kind of where I was at and what I was doing next. But in a nutshell, that was what consumed my life for a good couple of years.
And what was the outcome in the end?
We are still waiting. The petition is sitting in Parliament, and it has been for a year. But unfortunately, at the moment in New Zealand, we have a very far-right government who is really dedicated to obliterating human rights. And therefore, in fact, they've actually just cancelled all of the gender pay equity claims that are going through right now to save $12 billion, irrespective of the ripple effect from that, which will be massive. So it's still sitting in the select committee, and we still await an outcome. But unfortunately, in the current political climate, I'm not particularly hopeful that anything is going to change in this term. But it will do, because it has to. And as I've said destruction precedes creation, and we just have to allow the dismantling to dismantle itself, and then the seeds are planted, at least when someone is ready to pursue it.
When you were starting this campaign, did you have hope that you would get a result quite quickly?
Ah, yes, naively, for sure. When I undertook this campaign, I massively underestimated what I was taking on. So I wrote my master's thesis on this topic of unpaid placements and the financial implications, the personal implications, and the workforce implications. So I was writing a master's thesis and running a campaign full time. And I was just absolutely, I was working insane hours, and nothing I did ever felt like it was enough. And I basically felt like I was on call 24/7, because I'm like, I've got to be looking out in the media for this opportunity. What if this person wants to talk to me? I need to go and do this public speaking thing. And so I thought that the more hours I worked, the quicker the result I might get. But I was wrong, and system change takes a really, really long time, and it requires a really long, sustained effort. And that is where I really went wrong. And I did achieve a lot in 6 months, but I actually probably would have been better off slowing it all down and continuing more steadily over a longer period, rather than having a catastrophic burnout and breakdown when I submitted my master's thesis and the petition.
So that was 6 months, but the whole campaign was then 2 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. And before we get into recovering from burnout, which a lot of my audience can relate to, I can relate to as well, I really want to touch on a very common belief that I see, especially, I think everyone has, but it impacts obviously men and women differently. And that's the harder you work, the more hours you put in, the more money you make and the more successful you'll likely be. Could you explore with us how you came to break down that limiting belief?
I think what sits underneath all of this, or certainly for me, is this real underlying, we have to prove our worthiness. And the more we do, the more we earn, the more title, the more status we have, the more worthy we will feel. But that's not actually the source of worthiness. And so we're just spinning our wheels deeper into the mud, thinking if I just have more, 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 I will eventually at some point reach the point that I actually feel worthy. And what I realized, and since finishing the campaign, I've had to do some really deep soul searching and like really deep inner work. And actually, once I recognized that my worth is inherent, it just is. It's not something I have to earn. It's not something I have to do. It's just something that is, and it is in all of us. But it takes the peeling back of all those layers of social conditioning and all these things that we've been told that if we just do more and more and more, we will eventually, at some point in the future, be happy. And actually, when I realized that none of it's true, I just breathed out. A big learning for me, for someone who is an avid do, is actually learning to just to be, and to be
Mm.
okay with just being.
I think that's such, I've gone from a similar shift actually, and different circumstances to that triggered or activated the deep healing that needed to be done. For me, it was the PMDD, but coming to that same realization that I am enough just for being me, and actually being is more life enhancing and more the way we're meant to be living our life than that constant hustle culture bullshit stuff.
Yeah, that life is actually meant to be easeful. It's meant to be enjoyed, not just endured. And I think
Mm.
that has been a really quite a pivotal turn in the way that I operate in my life and in the world now. And even just things like, since recognizing my own worth, I've become a lot less available to people. And it's been really joyous. And I used to feel like I had to be on call for everyone. Oh, my friend's struggling with something. I need to be there for them. But I realized that I was there for the campaign. I was there for the community. I was there for, people who were interested in what I was doing. And I was there for friends, and I was there for anyone except myself. And I just became stretched so thin. I just became completely lost. And my identity had become so bound up in campaign lead of paid placements Aotearoa that I had completely disconnected from actually who I am and my own sense of self. So that has been a hell of a journey to really find my way back to me.
I love that. And on staying wild, one of the key things I want to get out of the conversations is how do we follow our wild? And I think you really hit the nail on the head is we have to know who we are. How did you, or what are some of the ways that you found your way back home to your soul, to who you are?
I shut out the noise. I think that's the most, for me, especially people will always have opinions of what you should be doing, and people love giving advice and they love sharing their opinions. But when we get wrapped up in what other people think we should do or should be, we completely lose connection to ourselves. And so distraction is socially our drug of choice in some way, shape, or form, whether it's doom scrolling, shopping, over exercising, overeating, is some form of disconnection from ourselves. And when we remove those and sit with the discomfort of whatever is, actually, that's where all of our wisdom, all of our insights, all of our intuition is. It's all there in us. It's just that it's hidden behind all of these layers. And we have to slow down enough and be quiet enough for long enough to hear our own thoughts and our own inner wisdom that is right with us. So I think slowing down has really been a massive part of it. And another huge part of my life is earlier this year, I was into Buddhism quite some time ago, let it go, and now I've found my way back to it. And I now chant every day, and that has been such a game changer for me because for anyone who has a neurospicy ADHD brain, you'll understand that trying to concentrate on anything is really hard. And I find meditation is just a nightmare. I just suck at it, and I've finally accepted that I suck at it, but I really value having a practice. And so chanting for me is really helpful because the sound, the vibration, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system through the vagus nerve, and it really helps me slow down and listen to my own thoughts and be more present in my life and much more intentional. So
Mm.
being quiet and chanting have been absolute game changers in my life.
I love that. And what does the process of slowing down and being quiet look like for you?
Getting off my phone
Mhm.
and even walking the dog, for example. I used to always be listening to a podcast, always be listening to music, always have something on, just white noise, background noise. I wasn't even really listening because I was too caught up in my own thoughts, but I just still needed the background noise. And actually just sitting quietly. I love running. Running has always been a really important part of my life. So just going for a run without any music, even without the watch. So I'm not being like, oh, what's my pace? And hanging out with my dog. Oh my gosh, that dog is just a source of joy. And I can sit with her for hours and just drink tea and talk to her and just love on her and just being around such a calm, that's the unconditional love of an animal. Oh my goodness. And they just, you are so free to be however you really are with an animal. Like when I was
Mm.
really deep in grief for my sister, I could just sit and sob with the dog, and she's just like, love you. There's no judgment, there's no shame, there's no anything. So I think having that total safety to
Mm.
just be has been really powerful.
I completely relate to that because I got my dog when I was in severe depression with the hormone health thing going on. And everyone around was telling me it's the worst time to get a dog. She'll take your freedom. Worst decision ever. But as you've just said, actually, it's the most phenomenal thing I've ever had in my life. She's given me more freedom. That unconditional love is like, I can't put into words how valuable it is and how amazing it's been. And also just to have someone, I found to have someone to care for and to share my love with. That was incredibly healing as well.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what I'd do without my dog. She's the greatest gift of
Mm,
my life. And I agree, like in the worst of grief, and I just didn't really care whether I was here or not.
mm,
And I'd just be like, oh, but who's going to look after the dog? And I really was here because I was like, she loves me more than anything else on this earth, and I need to be here to love her back more than anything else she will ever receive in this
mm.
lifetime.
Yeah, I was exactly the same. Same thoughts. Yeah, they're incredible. I just think everyone should have a dog.
Yeah. Therapy
Okay.
dog. That's what we used to call her, therapy dog.
Yeah, so spot on. I love where we're going. I think one of the other questions I have, and where my listeners also maybe struggle, is when you are in the period where you feel lost, where you feel you're unsure of maybe what your purpose is. How do you find or follow that pull of where to go or what to do next?
Great question. This is where I try and get out of my own head and into my own body because our body holds such a wealth of wisdom. And really, I do it based on energy and expansion. Like if I'm in a situation, I used to do it based on values, but ultimately that's quite heady. And I think we try and sometimes like box our decisions into values when actually there can be something deeper underneath that needs to show itself first. And so I will often look for tension in the body. Clenching my jaw is a massive indicator to me that something needs to be said or done and needs to shift. So I love somatic work, just really slowing down and getting into the body and just with pure curiosity, without any judgment, just really lovingly explore what needs to be explored. And
Mm.
just the more I take the time to be with myself and just notice, no judgment, no trying to make stories up about anything, just notice how something feels in my body. Does it make me feel alive? Do I feel energized? Am I passionate about this? Or do I avoid it? Do I feel contracted? Do I want to curl up in a ball? And so I really try and tap into what my body is telling me because I do believe that those deeper layers of our consciousness that we don't necessarily have direct access to still hold a lot of intelligence that's worth listening to.
I agree. Have you done human design?
I hear people raving about it, but I actually don't know much about it.
Okay, I don't actually know that much either. But the reason I ask is I had a great session. When you do your human design, it's like, okay, this is your blueprint, your generator and manifester, something, something else. And then within that, it helps you better understand your thought process, decision making, and how you feel. The guy's like, oh, when you make decisions, how does it feel? And I was like, oh, there's this huge space, like expanding it in this like really wonderful way and creating more freedom, more energy, more inspiration. And then when it's a no, it's just like feeling icky and like contracting. And this is like part of listening to our intuition, right? How would you recommend? Because a lot of people, they haven't sat with themselves. They're not sure how to tune in to the body. And it is a practice. I feel it is a skill. What would you recommend to someone who would like to tune more into their body to notice how can they make a decision through their body and through their intuition?
Honestly, just start for 30 seconds, just like anything else. Just like if you're trying to build a meditation practice, just
Mm.
start by just sit quietly, close your eyes, because that's a great way to just simplify going in, and just literally just imagine that you're scanning down through your head, through your eyes, your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, and just notice where there is tension. It doesn't take much, literally 30 seconds to just start scanning. And then that can be it. If that's enough and that's all you can cope with, then that's fine. And then the next time you go through and you do a scan, just when something feels really pertinent, just sit with it. 30 seconds, that's all it takes. Just notice if anything shifts, notice if anything changes, notice if you have any judgments about it, and just know that all of it's welcome. What I've realized is that the more we welcome everything, what we consider good or bad, when we remove the labels and we just let whatever is here be, it naturally starts to move and integrate itself. We don't actually have to do anything with it. And I think that's the thing that people worry about is, okay, well, I find this tension and now what do I do? What do I, and they get back in their heads. We kind of we go into our bodies and then we have a tendency, it's just a defense mechanism that we go back into our head because that's where it feels safe. And just notice that you've gone back into your head. And then when you feel ready, drop back down into the body and just go exploring and really just removing any expectation of what it should be to be in your body.
I really love that. I completely agree. Again, you hit on a really important point is we just have to be and accept and feel the feelings to move through. I actually just wrote something on resilience that you can add to for sure. And I was saying that actually resilience is kind of what we've been talking about. It's go, go, go. It's the hustle culture. It's doing the hard things, pushing through, grinding through. But actually, for me, resilience, we've both done Ironmans. That was so much easier than doing the mindset work than doing the healing, for me anyway,
Way
because
easier.
way
Because you get in
easier,
the
right?
middle. You get, you've got support crew, you've got aid stations, you've got coaches, you've got whole network of people. People celebrate. It's an external thing. But the deep inner transformation, no one's showing up for that. There is no
Yeah.
external validation for that whatsoever. And people can't even see it because on the outside, you still look more or less the same, maybe a bit healthier. But yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Iron
Yeah.
Man was relatively a breeze.
Yeah, I'm
Still
completely with
hard,
you. It sounds crazy to say because people, I think, who haven't been through intense grief or who haven't experienced something similar, like depression or chronic pain or whatever it is very hard to relate to. And so then when you say like, oh, an Ironman is a walk in the park compared to doing this work, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I think as well, like when you're doing any kind of training, it's such a clear path. Like you just show up, you do the work, it's easy. Maybe you grind through it, but you show up, you get the work done, and then you have your outcome. Whereas healing is just like, where the fuck are you going to go with this? And there are so many different layers and things, and you get to the point like, I healed all that, and then something maybe activates or triggers something else. You're like, oh, okay, there's actually another layer and layer and layer to this. So we're always transforming and evolving. So for me, resilience, bringing it back now, is more about being vulnerable, feeling the feelings, accepting them, welcoming them, being soft, leaning into the feminine in the resilience. What's your hot take?
I love that. And I totally hear you. It was really interesting. I learned in the course of my own training that when we allow our feelings to pass through, they pass through in 90 seconds. That's
Hmm.
it. And it's actually the suffering comes from our resistance to feeling rather than the feeling itself. So
Hmm.
there's a brilliant Buddhist quote, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And so pain is a natural part of the human experience. We will experience grief. We will experience physical pain. We will experience heartbreak. But what we do with these experiences is what determines the outcome, not the experience itself. And so I think once I realized that I was the source of my own suffering because I was refusing to let myself feel. And I was trying to tough my way through grief. And I failed miserably because you cannot tough your way through grief. You have to surrender. But it's the resistance that is what keeps us stuck in the suffering. But we've just been conditioned to believe that feelings are bad. And for
Hmm.
example, in school, I got bullied as a kid. I was a little one. I was an easy target. And when I cried, I would be shamed for crying. And I swear it took me until 34 years old where I was able to cry in front of another human being because I felt such deep shame for letting anybody see that level of vulnerability. But what I've also realized is that the more vulnerable I am, the more we let people see our human selves, the more actually we deepen our connection with each other. And I see this play out in relationship a lot. And I had a falling out with a friend not that long ago. And instead of going into that place of blame and defect and, defending and justifying, we sat down together and we were just like, I absolutely love you. What's happened? And we both cried and we both expressed what was going on. And it was the most healing experience because we just said, I'm really scared that this friendship could end and that would be devastating for me. And it was the ownership of the fear that enabled us to come back together. And it
Hmm.
was so much, that was actually so much easier, so much more powerful, and so much more profound than just being like, you're the arsehole because I don't want to deal with this.
That sounds like a very beautiful moment in your friendship. Now we're sadly coming to the end of our episode. What advice do you have for someone who would like to follow their wild self in a deeper way?
The messages that I get constantly, and I feel like this is one of those we teach what we most need to learn moments, is I get patience, trust, and surrender. These are the messages that come through all of the time. And I am so impatient. And when I try and be patient, I'm like, okay, have I been patient for long enough now? When's the deadline? Have I passed? So patience is probably my big universal lesson that I'm still working on. But I've really found that the more I just let go and actually truly surrender and have trust in something greater than myself, whatever that means to anyone, none of us really know. But life becomes so much more easeful when we're not constantly fighting ourselves
Mm.
and just enjoying. I really believe that we are here to enjoy this human experience. It is not, yes, it's meant to be a test, but it's an opportunity. Everything is an opportunity for our own growth and evolution. So we will all experience gnarly stuff in this lifetime. None of us will get out unscathed, but our power is in the recognition that we can transform anything that has happened to us. And I think that is the most expansive gift that we can ever give ourselves.
Oh, what a powerful way to end the conversation. And it's really funny you mentioned those three things: patience, trust, and surrender. Because I literally had this exact conversation with my coach yesterday. And I'm like you, like my soul and myself is just an impatient being. I am still learning. And I think patience is the one that I see everyone needing more patience in life, and to surrender and to trust that we're being shown where to go, and the lessons coming through are the ones that we need to learn in order, as you said, to expand.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share based on our conversation?
I feel like we just start down a whole other rabbit hole. So I think this has been delightful. Thank you. It's so nice to speak openly and freely about deeper things that I feel like so often don't get talked about in everyday conversation. So thank you for being willing to explore.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And where can we find you?
Bex Howells on all social media platforms, basically.
I'm going to put all the links into the show notes so we can go and follow you and
Thank you.
connect with you. Is there anything you'd like to promote as well?
I work with people now, having off the back of the campaign, the next evolution of what I'm doing is I work with change makers, other people like me who've got this mission, this thing that's just gnawing away at them, and they know that they have this greater purpose and this mission, this thing that they're here for, but they've got no idea how to go about doing it. So if they want to really, really understand who they are and what they stand for, come talk to me and let's figure it out and get you moving.
I love that. So I'll also put a link to your website in the show notes below too. So we can all go and find you and connect. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
I am editing this from my podcast, so I'm in the back of the car again. We are on the road still. Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Bex. Absolutely fascinating. Hope you learned a lot, have a lot to ponder, and got some easy breakthroughs and strategies that you can apply to just make your life even better. And I hope some of the points from the masterclass upgrade your career mindset. The mindset upgrade that unlocks your career breakthrough. Should really know the title of my own masterclass. I hope some things landed in there for you. If you would like to extend your training, your evolution, your development, I have a free PDF called the Escape Burnout Protocol, which is a 4-step power move to help you gain clarity very quickly, less than 20 minutes, on where you need to focus your time and energy and the key tasks you need to do to move your career and yourself forward in a way that feels good, so we can get you out of burnout or stop burning out. If you would like to take this journey even deeper, then I have an online program, The Rise of the Wild Woman. Get your career breakthrough in 35 days, where we dive even deeper, but in a bite-sized and enjoyable and fun way. It's all about that fun. Success should feel as good as it looks. And then if you're like, actually, Adelaide, that is not enough, I want to work with you, then that is so wonderful. I would absolutely love that. Send me a DM wild or a message, and then we can chat about what VIP coaching will look like for you and the kind of results we can help you get. Please rate, review, subscribe on Spotify, on YouTube. I would love to read reviews. That would be super fun to do in the Wild episode, which is coming out on Thursday. And I actually received some not very nice news, I guess, this weekend. So I have a new journey I am beginning, which is kind of absolutely scary, to be honest. I was really thinking anyway, we get into it in the Wild episode. I'm not going to spend time here. So you'll want to listen and tune in on Thursday. I'm going to need your help. So tune in, rate, subscribe, review, follow me on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. I'm all over the place, sharing mindset content and adventure content. I find it inspiring to watch other people do adventures, so I hope you do too. that is it from me. Otherwise, I'm going to go on and on and on. So please, if I haven't said it enough, rate, subscribe, review. I would love that. And thank you so much for listening. Do submit your dilemmas, any questions you have, via the link below in the show notes, or send me a DM. If you want to work with me, that'd be awesome. All the links you need in the show notes. Have a truly wonderful rest of your day.